Hello everyone, welcome to another How We're Feeling review. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
Today, Brandon and I are going to tell you how we felt about Jupiter Ascending, which is a brand new film from the Wachowskis, and this is the first film from them I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
And they wrote and directed this, and I was kind of surprised to find that this wasn't based on any kind of source material at all. It felt like potentially, as I was watching it, maybe another young adult book adaptation, or maybe another weird indie comic that I had never heard of. And it seems like half the time I go to stuff like this having no idea what I'm going into, because I didn't look at anything about this movie, this particular one. We just went. Right. And I half the time when I go to things like this, I suddenly find out that they're based on comics, and I'm like, oh, it's a comic thing. I can't get away from comic things. This one, totally its own thing, but definitely derived from lots of that kinds of stuff. This is going to be a weird one to try to give a synopsis for, so I'm going to do my level best. But Jupiter Ascending is about a girl who it's kind of your standard girl who is super important to the universe but doesn't know it stories. And she discovers that she's like space royalty, and she ends up being this like big linchpin in a couple of major galactic corporate CEO people's plans, and it all has to do with immortality and staying alive at the expense of other people and making an entire business out of that. And but it kind of hinges a lot. That stuff's all in the background. The really interesting stuff's in the background, and in the foreground is a really typical, I think, kind of laughable love story, and a whole lot of action that I found myself having a very difficult time being invested in. Yeah. I'm certainly giving away my feelings about this early on. I don't know how to separate that from even explaining what happens in the film. It's kinda all over the place, and we'll go ahead and get into it. Brandon, How did you feel about Jupiter Ascending?
This movie made me feel nothing. This movie made me feel nothing.
Well, why'd you write anything else in your book?
This movie made me feel... Yeah. As a matter of fact, this movie did actually make me feel nothing. I will say, I wasn't glad I went to see this movie. I wasn't mad I went to see this movie. I went in knowing nothing about it. I came out knowing nothing about it.
That's fair, yeah. Or at least not having a good sense of who these people are and why you're supposed to care. Yeah.
I'll put it this way. I'll be short and sweet about it. I was not vested in these characters in any way, shape, or form. This movie was disjointed at its best. From scene to scene, they cut from Earth to space in a couple of places. The character I felt most in tune with was the father at the beginning. So this was an interesting... This was eclectic, put together, I guess. The soundtrack was interesting.
Was there anything you thought they nailed? I mean, was there anything you thought was just really super cool?
As far as super cool, okay, I'll put it this way. The visuals were interesting in this movie, but the visuals to me seemed as though they were someone's magnum opus for themselves, if you will. It was something that they wanted to put together. It wasn't a mass market thing for me.
And they just weren't thinking enough about the audience.
They weren't thinking enough about the audience. Yeah. They wanted exactly what they wanted, and it was all for them.
So you felt totally distanced from the narrative.
I was very distanced from all of it.
Yeah.
It was interesting looking, but there were musical cues in this that told me this is supposed to be epic.
Yeah.
Was I getting epic out of these fight scenes? No. There wasn't anything for me to latch on to. It was some interesting, I'll go so far as to say it was interesting choreography. It wasn't great. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't... I've seen better choreography in a lot of other places.
Yeah, sure.
In other mediums, in other movies. The musical soundtrack also was interesting. I describe it like this. This movie was was literally a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Like sci-fi genre, you name it, you put it in here. I think we looked up the guy who did the soundtrack. You said he also did the last Star Trek movie.
Yeah, Michael starts with a G.
This was very interesting because I was getting cues from lots of different sci-fi type things throughout this movie.
Yeah, sure.
But then the end credits started rolling, and there was Star Trek.
It's Nero's theme from 2009.
It kind of was. It was. If you asked me if they nailed anything, well, like so many other movies that nail this particular aspect, it ended.
You're just glad when it was over.
Yeah. I kind of was. I mean, this movie left me neither high nor low. It was.
Well, obligatory sign flip.
I am not feeling it.
This movie is an absolute quagmire, Brandon.
Yes.
Okay,
that's a good word for that.
This is how I felt about it.
Yes.
This movie made me feel like I was watching a slightly higher budget Sci-Fi Channel original movie with a script intended for a Sci-Fi Channel original movie. Wow, I can't believe that the guys who directed this movie are the guys who directed this movie. I am this whole movie thinking Matrix. And the guys who made The Matrix ripped off The Matrix. It's really sad to see that. And I mean, like, they've not had a great track record since The Matrix. There's been, I mean, I would be really, I didn't see the preview, so I have no idea how they advertised this, but I'd be really surprised if
I saw one preview.
I'd be kind of surprised if even now they weren't still saying from the creators of The Matrix, because they haven't done anything else that anybody would be really excited about. Oh, they made, they made Speed Racer. I mean, that was pretty critically panned. I never saw that, so not here nor there with that. But I'm just saying that, like, they've kind of lost their mojo, and this movie was, as I said earlier, just all over the place. At the very beginning, there is no logical story progression. The scenes do not logically follow the next scene.
I didn't know where this was going till like 3/4 of the way through.
And even still, there was still a certain amount of, I'm not really sure what we're getting at with this, guys. You know what I mean? Like, even when I got more of a sense of like what the universe was and what the themes were and stuff, it still felt like a really weird kind of potpourri where somebody just kind of like popped open a can of something and you're smelling everything and nothing all at the same time.
Well, that's an interesting analogy. I would have to agree with that.
I'm with you. I didn't have any emotional investment whatsoever in Jupiter or the boyfriend, especially Channing Tatum. Wasn't impressed with really any performance in the movie. I hate to say that. No,
And I do like Mila Kunis. I think she's been great in certain things, but this was not her.
And this was my introduction to her. I hadn't seen her in anything else. I don't think. Nothing sprung to mind. But yeah. Like, the dialogue is all over the film, super wooden, and there were a lot of scenes that are just bizarrely written.
There were some lines.
Not just nobody would talk like this, but like laugh out loud, unintentionally hysterical. My personal favorite is, besides the dog thing, which I just don't even want to get into. I took my glasses off, put my hand on my head like this, and went, I don't know what I am watching, but it was awkward, and I mean, like,
it's totally
it was
true.
Yeah, it's true. It was like. And I know I get flack sometimes for making fun of these movies a lot, but like the only thing I can think of to compare it to is it was like worse than the really cliche love dialogue in the Star Wars prequels, because it wasn't just cliche, it was like really uncomfortable, uncomfortable.
Oh, totally.
There's a couple places that just like kind of freaked me out that anybody would even come up with that dialogue, and that I was supposed to find it somehow endearing and charming. Really strange. But my personal favorite, besides the dog thing, if you see it, there's this giant battle, kind of the first major action scene that just goes on and on and on and on and on, and I don't even know who these characters are yet, and kind of hoping I will at some point, and then I really kind of don't, and so so I get to the point where it's one of those movies where we get all these space battles and I never care, but before I don't realize that I'm never going to care, we get this battle that just never ends. And by the way, it's right over New York City, and I keep wondering like how nobody's noticing it, and like there's an explanation for it later, but like it doesn't even seem like while it's happening that anybody cares, and that's really strange. But then right after that, Jupiter has this laugh out loud line that they don't play it like it's funny. They don't play it like she's a ditz and maybe she's going to become less of a ditz. It's just, it's supposed to be like a normal thing that this person says. She goes, you can't just blow up a bunch of buildings and expect to get away with it. It's like, I will never forget that line.
A whole bunch of us laughed.
What's really strange for me is that as much as I really didn't care for this and think that it fell apart real quick and doesn't work at all, it's memorable. I won't forget it because there's some weird, crazy stuff I've never seen in anything before. As far as positives, real quick, some of the special effects are cool. Some of them feels kind of phoned in though. There was one scene in particular, and I might be wrong about this, but just the way it was shot. This is one of those movies that, because of the love story, they do the like CW giant headshot thing. And I hate that. And there's one scene where there's this like really opulent set behind them, and I swear to God it was green screen. And it looked like, and if they were actually in that room, it sure didn't matter that they were.
Exactly. There was a bunch of that.
Did you have some stuff like that?
Oh yeah, all over the place. Green screen.
Yeah, I thought some of the alien designs were kind of cool. And now, I mean, it felt really like Farscape and stuff like that. Like I said, it was a lot of kind of generic, but then I really liked like the lizard guys with the wings. That was kind of neat.
That was kind of cool. Interesting.
But just these like flashes of, that's just kind of a neat like design for a thing. But then I just didn't care about the universe. I did like the androids though. The androids their design was cool, but they could have done so much more with that, and instead they just relegated them to these background things. There was a lot of just, I feel like I've seen this before.
Yeah.
And as you said, I mean, like, it rips off everything. And it's not homages, it is ripping
it off
everything.
And it's just kind of compiling it into one thing after another.
And it's ripping off a lot of recent stuff. And that's one of the things that I think made it really glaring, right? Was that, like, there's some Pacific Rim in this. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
What was it we said that, there's a kaiju right there.
I feel like a lot of the script, I'm sorry to say, a lot of the script writing I felt like was like Twilight bad.
And I didn't even see Twilight.
I would say that tonally and story wise, it's like a cross between, I mean, I guess kind of the Matrix. Only in, and when I said that they're ripping themselves off,
right?
Well, there's all this like really unnecessary slow motion that doesn't even look good, and
what was up with that?
I
totally forgot about that until you mentioned it just now. That like the slow mo, like that's part of these epic, what's supposed to be epic battle scenes.
Yeah.
And they go all slow-mo, but the slow-mo is only like for 3 seconds at a time.
It's really silly.
And it's like one thing that, like, there's a specific kick that Channing Tatum's character makes.
Yeah.
And it barely even grazes the guy, and it throws him way off kill.
Importantly, and this is the thing that people forget, importantly in the Matrix, it was there because it looked cool and because, they were pushing envelopes with technology.
Bullet time was
figured
awesome.
out how to do it. But my point is, the whole idea was supposed to be perception.
Right.
In the moment, those people are feeling the world slow down, and this is just pointless. There's no reason for it at all. There's some cool ideas here. I wish that they were brought to the forefront and that the movie was more about them. The movie should be much more about immortality, and
they went the wrong direction with this.
There was, when they just don't spend enough time on it, and it's really convoluted. There's like way too much just like lore stuff all thrown together. One thing that was kind of driving me crazy was that I felt like it kept trying to get more credibility by throwing in just like as much like alien terminology as possible. It was just like alien term after alien term after alien term.
Okay, well,
and that got irritating after a while because A, I wasn't invested, and B, there were too many characters to keep track of, and none of them felt real to me.
Not only that, but they kept introducing character types too. You'd see in another background scene, there's another alien type, but they're not saying anything. And, and speaking of the alien terminology,
story mistakes.
While at the same time, these people are all actual humans. Oh, the obligatory sign throw.
You just keep talking.
While these people are all humans, they're saying things, that would mean nothing in Mila Kunis's character, in Jupiter's life. They would mean nothing, but she takes to it super fast.
I don't understand that.
And they try to get away with it with a line from another character, like, "Oh, you must be a quick study. You learned that quickly."
Yeah, but why is she a quick study? I don't know
anything about her. You don't even get that from where she's coming from.
Yeah, basic story stuff. I don't know who this character is and what she wants.
Exactly.
They treat it like a Wizard of Oz thing, where she gets sucked into this weird alien world, and all she wants to do is go home, and she starts to appreciate her old life more because she's in this other place, or at least that's theoretically what it's supposed to be, and the way they play it at the end. But the problem is, she takes to royalty really fast. I don't get the sense. I don't understand why she keeps wanting to go home. I don't know what she wants at the beginning, except vaguely a more interesting life, I guess. She's the MacGuffin for the piece and the protagonist simultaneously, and she's a completely one-dimensional character.
Well, there's a couple of lines near the end of the movie, and I won't give them away, but you'll know where I'm talking about. It's a couple of lines at the end of the movie where she's talking to the other guy who wants to destroy, and she's asking about how much time is left.
Yeah.
And they could have gone somewhere with that, but they cut it short. And, it left us to fill in the blank, which was pretty obvious, but they could have done it in a much more conductive way.
Because the pacing...
A more fluid way.
Because the pacing is so wonky and I don't have anything to grasp onto.
There's nothing to grab onto.
There's this incredibly awkward and jarring moment toward the end when there is a callback to a line from the very, very beginning of the movie that's supposed to somehow, sum up her character versus the lineage character that I won't get into, and
they don't even explain how that works.
Her mother's an important thing, and we're not even going to get into it. But anyway, or these other guys, whatever. I'm not even going to get into all that. It's super complicated, and frankly, I don't understand it. Yeah, but anyway, but there's this line that is supposed to be a callback to the very beginning of the movie. This whole I hate my life thing, and I guess she's discovered that she doesn't hate her life now, I guess. And the thing is, when I got there, it was so jarring because I felt like I had seen that scene 3 days ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? By the time it comes back, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot all about that. It feels like it was. I mean, this movie is. I think just exhausting to get through.
Dare I say there are 3 different movies here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there are 3 different movies here, and they show up in the progression of scenes, if you can even call it a progression of scenes. I'll say it again, it's disjointed.
Yeah,
I
think we're completely in agreement on it.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of time as a commodity.
I like that too, but they didn't elaborate.
I love the idea of, and it's just, again, it's too much in the background. I love the idea of time is a commodity, but we're not doing a time travel movie. That's kind of neat. It's like they try to treat it like a social class thing, where you take these, and this idea of planet ownership was kind of fascinating, and so you have this idea of okay, if we can say that we're better than these other people and we can treat them like animals, then we can say that we're not doing anything any worse than humans having to survive by eating animals, and that and this idea of I really like this. There's a speech toward the end. I really like this idea about people can only survive at the expense of other people.
Yeah, and it's all human-based, humanity versus business, and it's kind of corporate world versus the little person.
Yeah, and that is in everything right now, and there's nothing new there.
Exactly.
But the spin on it was kind of the idea of Earth as a farm.
Yeah.
I thought was kind of neat. But that should be at the forefront, and also we need that stuff.
Why was that so far back?
Yeah.
They tried to bring the love story in.
Yeah.
And there was a line about, she said,
but weirdly, even that comes too late. I mean,
it did, but they're the weirdest line in the movie. I just don't know
why I'm supposed to care about anything until about an hour in, and even then, it's not a character thing. It's more of just ideas on paper. And I just want somebody to take the whole like Earth is a farm, planetary ownership, using people in order to make other people be able to live forever, and making that a business, and just take all that and make a more cohesive story out of that. That's really interesting.
I found a positive, and the positive is that little gem alone makes sense how they're going about it. The fact that the people are the commodity and can be traded on the open market, when they're people themselves, they're just the rich ones because they have the other people to trade on the open market.
Yeah, sure.
But also how the rejuvenation of the species works through the farming of the other people in the same species.
Yeah, and some of the science was even sort of sound in that department.
Right.
With the whole, cloning is not vital. Well, I don't think it's fair to call it a little idea. I think that's the idea that is supposed to be at the crux of it. It's just...
It's supposed to be, but they marginalized it against the backdrop of a love story that didn't blossom.
Partly because of the love story and partly because of all of the really overcomplicated lore, and it's just they're just indulgent with that. That's the big thing.
To me, this was someone making a self-indulgent flick.
Yeah.
And I had been wondering through the whole thing if this was based on the property and I was missing something, and then when I found out it wasn't, and I wasn't missing something.
That doesn't make it better.
It doesn't make it better, but it made more sense that it made less sense because a movie like this I would have expected to have been based on some property I knew nothing about.
Right.
And it was disappointing to find out it wasn't.
It's a first draft. It's very much a first draft.
It's a first draft. I said this earlier, and I stand by it. I said if this had been anybody's first movie, it would have been a career killer.
Yeah. Yeah, I was floored to find out who was working on this thing because it really felt like somebody's first movie. Wow. Well, we were rough on this one. I didn't like it. That's 2 hours I'll never get back.
I didn't like it either.
Well, everybody, thanks as always for watching How We're Feeling, and we will try to come back to you again next week. I know it's been a while since we've done these.
Yeah.
We want to start trying to get back to the theater again, and I'm excited to start doing these more often again, and hopefully we'll see some really good stuff here in the near future.
Hopefully after the lull of the season, right?
Yeah, well, but every now and again. There's a really good gem right here.
Out there.
Yeah. So we'll see.
This was not it.
Was not super excited about much of what we saw in the previews tonight for things coming anywhere before April or May.
Right.
But anyway, well, thanks again for watching, folks. We sure appreciate it, and we'll see you again hopefully next week. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.